Hey, it's Kevin Lawton, and I'm here at the Capacity headquarters in North Brunswick, New Jersey, visiting my neighbors, I guess you could say. I'm joined by Jeff Kaiden. He is the founder and CEO over here at Capacity. I just got a tour of the building. Amazing stuff going on here. I would say very organized, very clean, which I definitely appreciate and love to see in a warehouse. And we're going to talk to Jeff a little bit about his journey through the fulfillment business and growing Capacity into what it is today, into multiple buildings and fulfilling for some of the biggest brands out there, you could say. And also a little bit about fulfillment on the cosmetic side, some differences there, and also about some of the tech that they've invested in and also worked on. So, Jeff, it's a pleasure to be here in your house. So thanks for having me in. And how are you today?
Thanks, Kevin. I'm doing okay today. Thanks for having me on your podcast. It's really exciting for me.
Definitely. Well, thanks for having me in your place, right, to
You
do
got
the
it.
podcast, right?
You
We
got
love
it.
to see new warehouses, so it's great to see this one here, and I've driven past this one a lot, and I see the sign all the time, so it's great to
Stop
get
in
inside.
anytime.
All right, I appreciate that open invite. And we have the nice background here. The container in the office is very cool. So, I guess Jeff, tell us if people are not familiar with Capacity. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so we're a omni-channel fulfillment company, right? So we focus on B2B fulfillment, so to retailers, to international destinations distributors, as well as e-com. So for many small brands that they don't want to have a e-com warehouse and a B2B
Right.
warehouse, right? So we offer them both a high level of service on both the e-commerce side and also on the retailer fulfillment side in one place.
Very nice. So kind of the suite of full services there to be able to distribute to all the different places they want to distribute to. So very good stuff.
And a little value-added services on top, as you saw when we were out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, we saw that too. Yeah, yeah. So kind of all a little mix of everything, but being able to deliver that product to where it needs to go, whether it's through the retail or other means or direct to consumer. So you've been at this for a little while, right? Couple years, few
Few
years.
years.
So tell us a little bit about kind of the background story. Maybe how did you come to found Capacity and how it's grown over the years?
So it started out when I was a kid. My dad was a materials handling design consultant.
Interesting.
So when I used to
Okay.
go down into the basement,
Yeah.
there was like a drawing board, and my dad would be working on, the layouts of distribution centers that he designed as a
Yeah.
consultant for other companies. So I was always familiar with sort of the layout side of the business. My dad would sometimes also take me on warehouse tours and take, a
Nice,
tag along when I
nice,
was
yeah.
a kid. So there was that. There was a break where I wasn't in the material handling or fulfillment business, and then I came back and I started working for him as a design consultant and data analyst.
Oh,
This
okay.
was, in the late 90s. And so I learned a little bit about how customers liked or didn't like their warehouses to be what they were willing to invest in. And mostly they were very happy to buy conveyors, and they were happy to buy rack and
Yeah.
even a carousel. But when it came to the software, you'd say like, okay, so now we're going to put in a $300,000 warehouse management system. And they'd be like, nah, you know what?
Yeah.
I think we'll get by with what we have. And I was like,
Yeah.
how are these people possibly going to provide a good level of service? So fast forward, it was the dot-com boom. People were making e-commerce companies for whatever, shoes.com,
Yeah,
pets.com,
anything. Yeah.
greenwaterbottles.com, whatever. And I was trying to think, like, how are these people all going to get their fantastic e-commerce storefront ideas into reality and get the product to the folks, especially if they were small. Like, if a big company wasn't going to invest in a warehouse management system, how would a small company invest in a warehouse management
Right.
system? So
Interesting.
I had this idea. I didn't know that the 3PL industry existed, but I had this idea that I would, invest in technology and then open up a warehouse, and that we could service multiple accounts in the same building. And at the time, I was going to night school, and it was business school.
Yeah.
And I was in an entrepreneurship class, and I
Okay.
had to do a project for my business startup idea, and this
Yeah.
was my business startup idea. And so I worked on it, and then at the end of the project, we got the top marks on the business plan. And then I was like, I think this is what I should do,
Yeah.
and that is how we launched Capacity in 2000.
Wow, very interesting, and I love that story too. And I think that's such a incredible point you made there. Is that these companies like it's very easy, I think, to see the hardware, right, and see the conveyors, see the racking, the carousels you mentioned, and make those investments. But sometimes it's hard to see that tech side on the software side because it's almost invisible, right? Right. So I mean, how do you think that your mindset around being focused on the data side, like you said earlier in your career, and focused on that, how has that kind of made your approach a little different to the fulfillment 3PL business than maybe some other operators that have gotten into it?
So first of all, I am an engineer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
whenever we look at designing a solution for our potential customers, people who approach us and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'd like you to put together a proposal for us." So the first stop it makes is with the data analysts. We are pretty rigorous on what we ask them to share with us, so we can
Right.
analyze what their situation will look like, and then it passes from the data side into the engineering team, and the engineering team does a bespoke
Mm.
setup for
Okay.
every customer, and that's how we determine the price. So it really is an engineering-based approach that I think is what I bring to the company. And then also,
Right.
the other thing is to be in control of your own IT destiny is super important. 3PLs that might have, one of the large WMS companies
Yeah.
do their IT for them, I don't think is a nimble or cost-effective or the best solution that there is. We have our own software development team, about 20 developers, and they are constantly adding value in terms of what they can do for individual customers, how we can improve process improvements, things like that. So IT
Yeah.
definitely centered to the business, and potential customers who come and won't share their data, we can't really give them a price.
Can't help them. Yeah.
I mean, if it's a startup, if it's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
new, we'll try to help them along and try
Yeah.
to forecast their business for them. But really, the analysis and design is most important from the very get go.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's such a key factor, and I could see, when we took a tour before this in the warehouse here, and Jeff, I mean, he knows pretty much everything down to the individual detail and the systems and everything, and it's really great to see that. I think in a leader and an owner to be able to understand that and also understand the importance of that. I mean, I think that's so important, especially as you said, when you're dealing with clients in the 3PL business, and they're not giving you clarity on data, and you can't give them a true picture of what to expect, right? So how does that kind of maybe helped you work better with brands and help to continue to grow your business?
So, scalability on the e-com side is so important, and we looked at some technologies that we use to be able to handle both those normal Fridays in the middle of the year when things are kind of dull,
Yeah.
and then how to handle it on a Black Friday, for example, when things
Yeah.
are not dull at all, and being able to have a scalable technology to be able to have the people who really our people are really the key to all this, and have them be able to not freak out and not be on top of each other in the aisles and still
Right.
be able to get out that extra volume. So it's investment in both material handling equipment and the software that allows us to move forward and then surprise and delight the customer when we do go from 1,000 orders to 10,000 orders. And of course, there may be a small tail. They're not
Yeah.
going to ship them all on the same day, but it's surprisingly quick that we pivot to promotional events. I mean, cosmetics and skincare is driven by influencers, driven by promotional, and so to be able to go up and down is super important for us and for our customers, and we stand behind that in our contract language.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's so important too. Like you said, I mean, especially in the business, you're focused on the cosmetic. Like you said, I mean, there's so much now, especially like there's virality and all these things going on with social media. You
Yep.
mentioned the influencers. So, I mean, in that regard, you guys have been doing this for 23 years, right?
Something like that.
Something
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
You stopped counting.
We actually
years,
started
yeah.
with groceries.
Really?
Our first customer was a internet grocery company.
Interesting.
Very interesting because
Yeah.
there were, I think the average was 18 line items in an order. So it was much more complicated than what we do today, to tell you
Yeah,
the truth.
yeah.
And a lot of the items were glass jars and things like that. So I learned very much from the beginning about the importance of packing and how the skilled packer is an artist
Yeah.
more than a scientist. And so that is, that was the beginning. And again, we do have a lot of our businesses in health and wellness and beauty, skin care, hair care, supplements. We do some apparel as well,
Okay.
and some other medical devices and things like that. But yeah, cosmetics definitely has been my friend.
Yeah.
I didn't think when I was first starting out that I would spend weekends at Sephora and Ulta just checking out the brands, but I do.
So tell us a little bit about kind of that transition, and also, I mean, over 23 years, a lot has changed with fulfillment, especially even on the consumer side, how we order things, how we get goods delivered to us, and how we just shop in general. I think so. Tell us a little bit how you've seen fulfillment on your end change over those 23 years, and what's maybe some of the most notable things that you've seen.
Well, the surprising thing is that more has stayed the same than has changed.
Interesting. Okay.
Material handling equipment, forklift trucks, conveyors.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, there was put to light in 23 years ago.
Yeah.
ASRS systems, they existed 23 years ago. So on that side, nothing's really changed. I mean, of course, how we implement them and how we think about them has changed,
Right.
but there's not a huge amount of difference. Now, there are new technologies. Some of the cobot type solutions, those did not exist back in the day. But, the material handling, the building looks the same.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Still four walls. Yeah.
Four walls, high ceiling,
Yeah.
got some rack. But the big difference is the e-commerce order profile is so much different, and this expectation of fast delivery. Now, for us, there was always an expectation if the order comes in, you're going to ship it the same day. That
Right.
hasn't changed either. I mean, on the e-com side.
Yeah.
And on the B2B side, not that much has changed there either. Retailer compliance existed back in the day. There were ASNs being sent in 1995. So,
Yeah.
this is not something that's brand new. But I guess the expectation on the delivery side, which we don't own our own trucks. We don't own them. We use the carriers. And I think that people have a little bit more expectation of a quick delivery, although these days the focus is really on the price of the delivery, the
Yes.
cost, not
Yeah.
so much on am I going to get it tomorrow, but how can I get it in a reasonable amount of days to the customer without spending more than $6? I don't want to spend $18 to get this this order to the customer. So I think that price versus speed thing is something that we're looking at a lot more closely. But yeah, I think more has stayed surprisingly.
Yeah.
Oh, and also the people. The being able to have a great team in the warehouse, being able to have a great team outside the warehouse is super important and always has been. So I think there's a lot more similarities than changes. I know that's a surprising answer, but that's it's really very much the same as it was.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's a good answer. I mean, I think that it is true. It's just that the way we utilize some of those tools that we've used for a long time is maybe a little different, right? Because, like you said, the order profiles have changed a little bit. The way that we pack things maybe changed a little bit. But overall, like you said, the forklift equipment, racking is very similar.
I mean, the
things
way
like
that we use the IT, tools
Yeah.
and some AI to be able to properly plan the work, that's all brand new.
Yeah.
That's not anything that we could have envisioned back in the day. The other thing that's interesting for me is that there are a lot more players in the industry. Like even you, right? You have a small warehouse company
That's
yourself.
true. Yeah.
Back when we first started, my there weren't a lot of college-educated, excited people in the world of fulfillment. It was sort of no one wanted to come work. To get talented people to come work at a warehouse company in 2000, it was very hard. They all wanted to go work on Wall Street or do something with a brand or whatever. So it was only that when Amazon came around and all of a sudden supply chain became a little bit more of an attractive and sexy thing that we were able to all of a sudden get great people to start joining. But in those days, there were no, competition was limited.
Yeah.
There were not that many great providers. It was, it was a lot more, we were a little bit more special, I think, in our approach back then.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's an interesting point that you point out because we say on the podcast that warehouses are sexy. We think warehouses are sexy, but I think it was very much like there was some not secrecy, but you just didn't think much was going on within those four walls that you drive past, and like you said, it wasn't attractive for people to come in, and now we see more highlight on supply chain in general and more interesting kind of tech finding its way. I think I'm curious how you think about this. Like when we look at tech overall, just in the world, right? If we look at AI and robotics, and now like humanoid robotics too as well, it seems like they end up finding their practical applications within our world, right? Within the warehousing
Yep.
world. So I think that certainly made it more attractive. But I'm curious on that side, like what kind of tech are you guys looking at, or maybe have invested in already, that you think is kind of the next wave in a sense, and really making a mark on the industry?
So the way of thinking about it, or my way of thinking about it, is to have robots for their own sake doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right? It's on a case by case basis. We have 7 buildings. In each one, we have a different assortment of automation in each one. So, you know, humans are much more flexible than robots.
Yes.
You can't take the robot off of a picking line and say, could you just go process returns for a little bit?
Yeah,
Or
no.
like take the robot off the line and go say, you know what, Heidi could use a little help in receiving.
Yeah.
You know, so there's the flexibility that humans offer. Also, there's the pride and joy of working at a company that robots don't really show. But for your base business, right? And you can't use them for promotional events, because you can't wheel in robots I guess now you can rent them for busy season. I've seen that, that you can rent them, but you can't sort of bring them in for a day. And also they have to be fully, trained, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's hard to imagine a world where anything other than the base business that you have every single day can be covered by the robotics aspect, because to fill in on those crazy days, it's going to be people.
Yeah.
And so I think our automated put walls, I think, has been a great use of technology. We love that. You wouldn't call a print and apply machine a robot, but it sort of is. It's a robot that has an
It's
arm
automation.
that slaps things
Yeah.
down. But that's the extent to which we are looking at technology today on the hardware side. On the software side, of course, AI and planning work over across the day. That's something we're in the middle in right now.
Really interesting. And what are your thoughts on AI? I mean, are you kind of fully embracing it, or are you being a little cautious around it?
Well, I mean, it's different to think about AI in terms of looking at data and coming up with a solution.
Yeah.
We're not asking AI to design our website for us or provide customer service. I mean, because we're a B2B and a B2C company, we have
Right.
we're a customer service intensive organization.
Yeah.
And we have one-to-one relationship between our client account managers and our customers. They're best of friends, right? And so we're not replacing any of that with AI anytime soon.
Okay.
So I guess that would be the caution side.
Yeah.
I don't foresee that happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
Although we have, well, I'll just say, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, a little teaser maybe there for the future. But I think in talking to you and walking the floor with you, and I see your passion for the people themselves, right? So, there's a lot of talk, and has been a lot of talk for a couple of years now, around challenges around labor within the material handling, warehousing, fulfillment industry. But I think here, I don't think you have an issue with that. I see you interact with the employees, and you have a great relationship with the people on the floor. So what do you think, as a leader, maybe for some warehouse supervisors, managers that are listening out there? What's your advice on how to be able to create that culture and really build a place where people want to come to work and want to stay to work as well?
So I think the secret sauce is just the idea of respect. And then also remembering that if Jeff Kaiden doesn't come into work today, the orders are still going to ship. And if the folks out in the facilities don't show up at work, if our warehouse associates don't arrive, then nothing's going to ship. So really, who is the most important person in this company, right? The most important people in this company are the ones who are doing the work. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and this is somewhat controversial, but about working from home, right?
Yeah.
My opinion is that if my 600 warehouse associates or 800 warehouse associates need to come to work every day, why should the college-educated folks in the front office, why shouldn't they have to come to work every day? It's a fairness issue as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So, for all of you folks out there who want to work from home, don't come for a job with capacity. But I do think that showing that we're one team, not the warehouse people and the office people, we're just one team together. I think that's a key to success for us.
Yeah.
And then, of course, paying a good wage. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't stay at the minimum wage. You have to be ahead of the minimum wage. You have to have a safe and respectful work environment for those people who don't speak English. You have to have accommodation for them. And learning to speak Spanish in high school was probably like the smartest thing that I ever did. I didn't realize that would be the
It would
case.
pay off
but,
later, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, being able to communicate directly
Yeah.
with those members of our team who have Spanish as their first language is also, you can see it's fun for me, but it's also allows
Yeah.
me to communicate in a certain way. It has drawbacks too. Sometimes when somebody wants something, they'll send me a text message in Spanish. I'll be like, I can't deal with
It's
this.
too
But-
much. Yeah.
but having a good time every day is the other thing. And also for the warehouse associates to know about the products and the customers. There has to be like a knowledge of what's going on. And so I think involving our warehouse team in the client relationship is also super important.
Yeah, and I think and I will vouch for Jeff and say that he spoke Spanish multiple times when we were walking the floor, so it's very very impressive to be able to connect with the employees on all different levels in that way, and I think it's great to see kind of that atmosphere and culture here, and you can just tell just walking through and seeing how things are, so it's really great to see that, and I think too one thing to talk about is like. I noticed too as well that you're very, even as the CEO, right, at the highest level in the company, essentially you're still very much in the know and understand the core processes of the business on the floor. So, I mean, how important has understanding those processes been to be able to continue to grow the business and be able to really understand what's happening with everything?
So I think different types of CEOs come from different areas of the business and might be great at different things. So I wouldn't say that marketing is my strong suit.
Okay.
I wouldn't
Sure.
say that I don't like working on contracts.
Yeah.
I don't like negotiating salaries. Like there's
Yeah.
there's stuff that I don't do so well and I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
But I am an engineer and I did start out by designing warehouses. So I feel like I can mentor the engineering team and the IT team. And seeing them being as knowledgeable about warehouse design as I am, that is a great joy for me. Like I have colleagues that I can have a chit chat about whether we should use this technique or that technique. And sometimes someone fresh out of Rutgers, we have an internship program with Rutgers University.
Oh, nice.
So most of the engineers who work here started as interns when they were still students.
Yeah.
And having them come up with a better idea than what I came up with, that's the best. And so I think being able to talk their language is great.
Yeah.
But I'm covering up other areas of weakness by focusing on that, which I kind of understand a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I love IT.
Yeah.
I used to be in
I
college.
see
I've
that,
taken
yeah.
I'd taken computer programming classes when I was 18, and I still my mind still works that way. So that part's another part that I really enjoy.
Nice. Yeah, I think, it's such an important thing, especially when you're running a business focused on fulfillment and warehousing, right? It's important to understand those processes, and it gives you a better perspective, I think, to the point of our previous conversation here is about employees, right? Being able to connect with them and see and understand why they might be having some challenges in certain areas and things of that nature. So it's great to see that you're involved in that way. And as we start to look into 2024, we're heading into, and we're about almost a month out, I guess, as we're recording this, right?
Yep.
So tell us a little bit from your perspective. What are you seeing? There's some discussion around e-commerce. Is it going to be flatline? Is it going to decline? Is it going to increase? I mean, what are your thoughts around that, and what do you see from the brands that you're working with?
Yeah, so I think because we work with brands on the younger side, right? Or maybe not on the younger side, or a lot of them are on the younger side, but they're also not the mammoth, behemoth public companies
Right.
that have huge, market share. You see the ingenuity, the amazing product development of small teams. I feel like our customers are poised to do great.
Yeah.
I don't see I'm not a macroeconomic guru,
Yeah.
but I don't see any big decline. We had a strong October. November's looking good. The retailers are ordering. Target's ordering.
That's
Amazon's ordering.
Yeah.
Walmart's ordering. Ulta, Sephora, all the nice, they're all ordering.
Yeah.
So we're not seeing a drop off on that side. And I guess, as I said earlier, I think the one issue is there was this movement a few years ago about how I need to be located in 8 locations around the country so that I can
Right.
be near my end
Close to the
consumers.
customer,
But
yeah.
like our customers managing multiple inventories, disaster.
Yeah.
We have locations in Indianapolis and in California,
Yeah.
and we have no customers that have operations on both coasts. We offer it as a service.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
takes advantage. It's just hard to manage multiple
Right.
inventories for small companies. That's an area where maybe AI will have some impact. If someone would offer as an add-on to NetSuite some AI-powered inventory planning module, but I haven't seen that come up yet. Have you?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen
No,
that.
I've seen some stuff around that, but it's a good business idea. You just threw out there. Yeah.
Yeah, if someone wants to do that, feel free to come
Take
to my
it,
office.
take it,
We'll
yeah.
chat. But that has sort of died down. I don't think anybody's that interested in that, and that means obviously the transportation is going to take longer,
Right.
or be more expensive if you're only working from a single node. So, but I don't think the same. I want it tomorrow. I don't think is an expectation anymore.
Yeah.
I think people they order stuff, they forget about it, eventually it comes. So I think cost becomes a big driver. We're not just trying to get market share here. Brands want to make money,
Right.
because they know that whatever their exit strategy is, it's EBITDA based. It's not going to be revenue based.
Yeah.
So working with them to try to make their dreams come true is something that we take very seriously.
Interesting, yeah, interesting perspective, and I think it is true, and we've seen some of the micro fulfillment concepts and things like that, but it needs to be managed very closely and very sophisticated in a way with the forecasting and inventory placement and all those things. So obviously with younger brands, and especially a lot of brands I think we see pop up in D2C aren't necessarily coming from a supply chain or operating background, right?
Nope.
So yeah, so I mean in that sense, if we have some brands that are listening, and maybe they're wondering, like, how do they best prepare for that next step in their distribution or fulfillment strategy? I mean, what advice would you give them?
So focus on data. If you don't have a spreadsheet with the product, how many units are in a case pack? What's the length, width, height, and weight of the product?
Yeah.
And is it hazardous? Does it need a special label to go overseas, et cetera? Is it labeled for Canada? So knowing your product and making sure that you have a good master data. And good master data doesn't mean operating SAP, right?
Yeah.
Good master data just means that you have the data. You can work
Yeah,
with it
yeah.
because your 3PL is going to need to have all of that.
Yes.
Understanding that you don't, if you start working with a retailer, right? You move from just D2C into a retail business.
Yeah.
Make sure you have enough inventory, because if you do a deal with a retailer and all of a sudden they send you purchase orders and you don't have enough to fulfill,
Yeah.
you're gonna be out as quick as you got in. So
Yeah.
making sure that you understand that, and then the retailer requirements. This is not easy. There's gonna be deductions from your check. Make sure you're getting ready for that. So not from a logistics point of view, but from any point of view. Like, these are very complicated relationships with retailers. Don't go in all starry-eyed how fantastic it's gonna be. It's a
Yeah.
lot of hard work. But focusing on data, you don't want to hold too much inventory either. You don't want to be out of stock, but watch out for those big buys, because it'll be sitting here and you're paying me
Yeah.
storage, and you've tied up capital in there. So
Yeah.
I mean, being very careful about inventory planning, which goes hand in hand with watching out for SKU proliferation. I know you want to add to your assortment to
Yes.
get those extra customers. You're making it more complex for yourself in inventory, for your manufacturers, for your warehouse. So just, be tempered in your enthusiasm for increasing your SKU base.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. When you end up getting multiple SKUs, and I'm sure you see this a lot in cosmetic too, because of all the different shades and everything like that.
And we do
Yeah.
some apparel
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
we do
Sizes. Yeah.
sizes and colors. And
Yeah.
that can be pretty hairy, but
Yeah, that gets to a lot of SKUs quickly, right?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So very interesting stuff with you here, Jeff, and really appreciate you inviting me into your headquarters here in Capacity. If people are interested in learning more about Capacity and maybe getting in touch with you guys, what's the best way to do that?
I don't know, but our website is a great
Yeah,
place to
website.
start, and there's a contact button there, and you can look me up on LinkedIn and send me a note, and I'll forward you on. But I mean, we have again, we're based here, we're headquartered here in New Jersey. We like to have people come visit. We're an in-person organization. You always find someone here.
Nice.
We operate in Metro LA, which we like also, and then Indianapolis has been a great springboard for our growth, because real estate is half the price as it is in New Jersey.
Yeah. And they're having a
also,
big logistics boom there.
yeah, it's for us. It's been really super successful.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not easy to run multiple. For some of your other, I guess, guests on your show have 30 campuses, whatever, they figure this part out. But for us, trying to keep that culture intact across multiple sites around the United States, that's a challenge. We have a way of doing it, but we don't really want to increase the number of campuses we have any more than we are now, just because that part is so critical to our success, and it's hard to do from a distance.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great thing to have that core belief in keeping that culture and maintaining it strongly, because I see that it's evident here, and I would want to be, if I was in your shoes, I would want to keep that culture. So we'll definitely put all the information about Capacity at thenewhouse.com and also in the description of the video, so people can connect with Jeff on LinkedIn and also get in touch with Capacity if they're interested. And if you're ever in Jersey and you want to say hi to me, I live in Jersey, but also stop by Capacity and check out their great facility here. So Jeff, thank you very much for inviting me in here and joining me today.
You got it. Thanks, Kevin.